morning. We got your energy stories here for the fourth week of June 2021. In the first one, Public Service Enterprise Group, PSEG, said last week it's accelerated its net zero greenhouse gas ambitions by 20 years from 2050 to 2030. The company, whose assets include New Jersey's largest electric and gas utility, has set one of the most aggressive net zero goals by an energy company anywhere in the world. PSEG is selling its non-nuclear fleet, including 6,750 megawatts of fossil generation, and eyeing further investments in offshore wind, where it has already partnered with Denmark's wind development giant Ørsted on 25% of New Jersey's 1,100 megawatt ocean wind offshore project. PSEG's original net zero by 2050 goal was set in 2019, and it has already cut greenhouse gas emissions by more than 50% from 2005 levels. In the Midwestern United States, Michigan's Consumers Energy proposed last week to cease using coal as a generating fuel by 2025, 15 years ahead of schedule, and instead buy existing used natural gas power plants to provide reliable energy during a transition to a cleaner gen mix. The overall plan is expected to save customers $650 million over 2 decades, accelerating closure of 1,440 megawatts of coal plants in 2025. The plan also calls for early shuttering of 1,100 megawatts of peakers that rely on natural gas and fuel oil, accelerating those retirements from 2031 to 2023. In the solar world, the U.S. has forbidden import of some solar products made in China's Xinjiang region to address alleged human rights, forced labor abuses against the country's ethnic Uyghur minorities. Advocacy groups in a panel of UN experts assert that Uyghurs and other minorities have been subjected to mass arbitrary detention and forced to work against their will. In Europe, Sweden's HyBrit consortium between steel manufacturer SSAB and the country's largest iron ore miner LKAB is now getting the permits to construct a commercial-scale carbon-free iron plant using hydrogen to make iron. The facility will be placed near one of LKAB's huge iron ore mines and come online in 2026 and yield 1.3 million tons of fossil-free iron annually, suitable for production into high-quality steel. Last year, LKAB announced a strategy to shift from selling iron ore as a raw material to producing fossil-free, direct-reduced iron, called DRI, ready for steel making, using the HyBrit process. They were going to do this by 2025. The required investment is expected to reach between $1.2 and $1.8 billion per year for decades as they move towards that eventual 100% carbon-free goal, and result in a long-term reduction of CO2 emissions equivalent to about 2/3 of Sweden's total overall emissions. Other competitors are taking notice and jumping into the game. The H2 Green Steel Consortium is in the process of acquiring a 2 square mile site to build its own fossil-free steel plant, underpinned by an estimated 500 megawatts of electrolyzers to make green hydrogen for its DRI process. The cost of steel using iron via DRI is 20% higher than current market costs, but the market appears ready. Benz and Volvo have already committed to buying green steel as they clean up supply chain inputs into their vehicles. Danish fund manager Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners, CIP, plans to build a floating wind farm with a capacity of up to 100 megawatts off the coast of Scotland. This demonstration project is proposed to develop a floating offshore wind array of between 6 and 10 turbines and may include consideration of a semi-submersible turbine that supports 2 inclined turbines on one platform. And finally, in the I will believe it when I see it category, Australian company Alauda is developing a racing series with electrically powered flying cars. The Axis series is expected to include 3 events at different locations this year, with the electric flying cars controlled from the ground without pilots on board. Manned, piloted races are planned for next year. The Airspeeder Mk3, which Alauda says has already undertaken its first flights, will be the vehicle selected, and that vertical takeoff and landing machine should reach speeds of over 110 miles per hour. More than 10 identical Mk3s are to be produced and delivered to teams in 2021, and in case you were wondering, I was. Each race will involve quick pit stops of around 20 seconds with a slide and lock system facilitating quick removal and replacement of batteries on the ground. I wonder if Anakin Skywalker has been notified. I missed this whole electric plane racing thing in my book The Energy Switch, but there's still enough gee whiz stuff in there to keep you occupied. That's all for this week, and thanks for watching.